Thank you, Mr. President, members. I can't help but chuckle a little bit as I hear some of the impassioned arguments here today and some of the, what I would consider faulty logic that goes with it. So let me just talk about a couple of things. You know, we were charged with the whole concept of all the horses we had before, and now we have cars, and who would have seen that change in technology? Did we outlaw hay? Did we put some kind of price on it and decide which technology, which would survive? No, we didn't. The number one business in the world now, Apple computer, what did we do as a government to help create that? We stayed out of the way. Our number one sector in California is technology, biotechnology. What have we done to create that? We stayed out of their way. So here we have a changing economy that we want to say we are being asked to lead. By the way, who's asking that? We're being asked to lead, and in leading, we're picking winners and losers. Folks, this country is great because we haven't picked winners and losers. We've let the market decide what is effective, what works. We heard about how we're selling rice to Hunan province. You know, if you go to Hunan province and many other places in China, you'll see very small fields. And the mechanization that's there when it's not an ox out there pulling a plow by hand is a little Japanese rototiller type thing in these small irrigated fields. But the reality is we sell rice to China because we have an economy of scale, and yes, we have diesel-driven tractors that have a very long life. On our farm, we still have tractors over 50 years old, and they may emit more pollutants than before, but because they're not as used as much as transit buses and other things that are running around the clock, they have a long life. But the fact is, we're using fossil-based fuels to feed the world. So when we talk about all this changing technology, it reminds me after AB 32 was passed, I had the privilege of joining then Speaker Nunez in France as we were looking at high-speed rail, which was electric, and we were looking at their very high renewable portfolio standard. And he was very proud that France had attained 92%. And then I pointed out that 85% of that was driven by nuclear. Another 7% at that time was hydro. And we don't score any of those in California as renewable. So not only do we pick the technologies that are winners, and we pick the technologies that are losers, but we then put our thumb on the scale and say which renewables can't be used and which can. Likewise, I took a trip with CFE to Canada. In Canada, we have some agreement with Quebec. Canada is very good on renewables, but they've got all this hydro. And by the way, again, we don't score hydro. So why is it we as California want to take the burden of balancing a very noble goal of helping reduce greenhouse gases, but those gases don't stop at the California border. And when we stop burning fuel, coal for fuel, that doesn't stop Arizona or Oregon or other states from doing it, or China. And so we have a very lofty and noble goal, but other than feeling good about it, what has it actually accomplished? Wouldn't we be better off to set these great goals and let us figure out how to do it? One of the speakers was talking about how cheap that wind and solar is now less than fossil fuel. Well, we have subsidized that, but let's assume that it didn't get that way because of subsidy, and let's take that at face value that it's true. Then if wind and solar is cheaper than fossil fuel, we don't need to set anything here. It will become like the automobile was to the horse, or that the Apple computer was, or any other computer, to a typewriter, which is an antique now as well. It will change without us having to regulate who the winners and who the losers are. We wonder about these middle-class jobs, and I heard a lot about the poor working-class families. Well, I worry about that too, because what I see in our emerging economy is a coastal elite winners and the inland, more rural losers. We have the very low unemployment in the coastal areas. We have very high unemployment, as was talked about previously, in the rural areas. So why is it that as we are emerging out of this great recession, that we have this dichotomy growing, and we're losing the middle-class jobs? Could it be because 84% higher electric costs for our industrial sector? We've lost it. We're still the #1 manufacturing state, but a lot of it is just assembling parts that come from other areas. But the heavy industry, the heavy manufacturing that used to be the backbone of California is gone. And with it, a lot of the great blue-collar jobs. We've lost significant portions of the aviation industry. We've lost automobile manufacturing except Tesla. And by the way, where did they create their battery plant? right on the other side of the county line, or the state line, where they can benefit the market of California but not be burdened by our regulations. So, you know, I'm not saying don't set the goal, but let's not pick winners and losers. Let the market figure that out and sit back and see where it goes without us trying to direct the tiller. I ask for your no vote on this.